Before we begin this next segment, a warning to our viewers at home. This is a show with a sense of propriety, a family show. We try not to put anything on the screen that we'd be ashamed to show our own children. So with that in mind, you may see pictures as this progresses that make you uncomfortable. You might want to leave the room. It's about Joe Biden. Joe Biden was supposed to be the front runner for the 2020 presidential nomination on the Democratic side, and the polls show that he still is. But the former vice president has had a terrible weekend. He has faced backlash for controversial behavior, physical behavior around women. Former Nevada Assemblywoman Lucy Flores on Friday accused Biden of making her feel deeply uncomfortable by kissing her without being asked on the back of the head at a 2014 campaign event. She wrote a piece about it. Former Democratic congressional aide Amy Lapos, meanwhile, accused Biden of inappropriately touching her head in 2009. It's a head thing. Flores says that in her view, Biden should not run for president.
So I've answered this question many times in saying that personally, I do not believe that he should run.
Hair sniffers have no place in the modern Democratic Party. The rules are changing fast, but that's apparently where we are right now. In any case, it is not a great look for Joe Biden. Keep in mind, he is the man who has, over the years and many times recently, bemoaned the fraying of America's moral fabric.
That invisible moral fabric that holds up a society, a democracy, is being shredded. There's an invisible moral fabric. There's an invisible moral fabric. There's an invisible moral fabric. This invisible moral fabric. There's an invisible moral fabric that holds up all societies. The invisible moral fabric. The moral fabric.
The moral fabric of society is invisible but essential.
To stop this enormous erosion of the moral fabric that's at the hands of Donald Trump and the Republicans.
The moral fabric is fraying. The good news is the moral fabric softener smells amazing. So should Biden stay out of the Democratic race? Well, the other candidates can't make up their minds on that question. Watch.
I believe Lucy Flores, and Joe Biden needs to give an answer.
Should he not run as a result?
That's for Joe Biden to decide.
You know, I believe Lucy Flores. He's going to decide whether he's going to run or not.
People raise issues and they have to address them, and that's what he will have to do with the voters if he gets into the race.
Author and columnist Mark Steyn joins us tonight. So, Mark, one of the many reasons I'm glad you're with us tonight is to help make up my mind on this question. I mean, on the one hand, you think he is a warm person. I know him. He is warm. On the other hand, it's a lot of hair sniffing. This is the guy who the Secret Service said used to swim naked in front of them, including female agents. There's something a little creepy here. What should we think about this?
Well, you know, Tucker, there's an invisible moral fabric that's fraying, and it's holding up the back of that lady's dress, which is why Joe Biden's got his nose between her shoulder blades, trying to keep it from fraying any further. You mentioned those Secret Service agents, and I've heard a lot of people I respect, like Britt Hume earlier today, and Britt was saying that he doesn't think there's anything at all sexual about that. And I think that can be true and yet still not be a mitigating factor. You mentioned his habit of swimming naked in front of female Secret Service agents who are there to take a bullet for the vice president when he removes his swimming shorts and tosses them over their heads. That's not really the bullet they're supposed to be taking. There is something that is actually slightly presumptuous about this behavior in the way that it was when Charlie Rose used to do over at PBS, used to do dress rehearsals undressed. It's a power thing. It's the presumptuousness. And the Democrats are completely morally indifferent on this unless it serves their ends. And what they want to do is take this guy out. The other candidates want to take him out the way Jeb Bush was taken out by Trump 4 years ago. But they haven't got a Trump to take out Jeb Bush with a single well-placed adjectival insult, low-energy Jeb. So you use what you have, and that's why all these Democrat candidates have basically decided this is the bullet that takes out Joe Biden. I don't think he's going to run because I don't think he wants to be defending a lot of this stuff between now and November next year.
That's a lot. There's a lot of hair sniffing. I would just say my one concern, obviously I'm enjoying this deeply. I think Joe Biden is fraudulent in a lot of ways and shouldn't run. But you don't want to live in a society that's even colder and more atomized and more standoffish and more suspicious than the one we're already in. I mean, maybe the one good thing about Joe Biden is, you know, arm around the shoulder, which he's done to me many times. I mean, you don't want to kill that entirely, do you?
Well, that's actually an interesting point, Tucker, because, in fact, I was talking to someone just a couple of days ago who said he's actually a bit overly touchy-feely with men, too. And you're right. But I think, realistically, in this age of moral panic and Me Too, I mean, actually, if I were a male Democrat candidate, I'm not sure I'd actually want to stand on a stage with female Democrat candidates. I'd certainly want to put a lot of physical space between us. But the fact is, this is an utterly cynical move. You use what you have. We're now 2 months from the equivalent point where Trump came down that escalator at Trump Tower and disrupted the whole Republican process. They haven't got anyone that big. All the Kamala Harrises, all the Cory Bookers want to get rid of Joe Biden and get on with the real primary.
You're totally right.
Gives them what they're...
That's what's happening. Mark Stein, so smart. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
Well, the one thing about the Democratic Party, of course, it's the party that believes survivors. So why aren't they pouncing to denounce Joe Biden more than they already are? Richard Goodstein is an attorney, a former advisor to Bill and Hillary Clinton, and he joins us tonight. So as you can tell, normally we go into these conversations, you and I, Richard, and I've got a clear point of view, but I really am of two minds on this. On the one hand, it's a lot of hair to sniff. I mean, it's just a lot of hair to sniff. And on the other hand, I think if the other candidates don't like Biden, maybe they should argue against what he's saying and not just attack him sneakily in the way they are.
So let me address both of your points. I mean, what it's not is grabbing women by the genitals and then bragging about it. It's not forcing somebody down on a bed and putting his hand over their mouth. It's not having an affair with a Playboy bunny while his wife has a
It's not Juanita Broaddrick.
It's not that.
It's not Juanita Broaddrick is what you're saying. It's not Paula Jones. It's not being accused of rape or something like the Bill Clinton stuff. Yeah, I get it. You know, as Biden proudly says, you're not running against the almighty, you're running against the alternative. And this year, the alternative in this election will be Donald Trump, all of whom, you know, that we can kind of talk about. But hold on, wait, to be fair, it's not, wait, hold on. I'm the one I'm actually more forgiving of Joe Biden, and I think of people in general, because I am flawed, all people are. I'm more forgiving than the other Democratic candidates who are like, oh, I can't believe it, he's such a bad man. You know, it's like, really?
Look, I think there's two things. One, I think if Democrats run Joe Biden off because of this, they deserve to lose. Because Joe Biden, look, standards change. You know, the founding fathers had slaves. You know, Barack Obama was against same-sex marriage, and Biden brought him around. And what Biden did, you know, some years ago is not something that people... This Flores, incidentally, she was a Bernie Sanders person in 2016. My guess is she wants Bernie Sanders, not Joe Biden, to be the Democratic nominee.
Wait a second.
And even she says it wasn't assault.
Okay, now you're confusing me more. I thought that we believed all women. I've been taught that. I listen carefully to what they tell me on The View. You believe all women, even if they supported Bernie Sanders. So you're saying that her political views make her less believable?
No. I'm saying even Joe Biden doesn't take issue with the credibility of what she's saying. He's saying his intent was not kind of anything negative. And if she took offense, he wants to listen to her. He's not. So it's not basically saying that she's not to be believed. It's saying that if you believe her, it's not something that should be his undoing because you're looking at the totality. The voter should decide.
Okay, may I just ask one question? And this is a sincere question. I'm not attacking Biden. There's a lot of hair sniffing. I'm not making this up. This is not some right-wing talking point. What is that about? Have you ever sniffed a stranger's hair? Honestly.
He's a handsy guy.
That's not hands. That's a nose thing. That's a olfactory thing. What is that?
Well, I'm just saying he's a handsy guy. He likes to kind of feel that. He's a touchy guy. So, when you have him on your show, you could ask him what that's been about.
I'm going to ask him. And by the way, I'm not going to judge him. Like, you like to sniff people? Totally fine. You know, that's your thing.
I don't think it's a question of sniffing. I think it's a question of kind of humanity. And I think if we turn our back on that, shame on all of us.
No, I love it. Richard, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.